Hello everyone, we are from Group 11. Today we are going to present about market signaling. So, what are we going to present in market signaling? First of all is about introduction. The second one is how market signaling works. The third one is what characteristic can a firm examine to obtain information about productivity. The fourth one is a simple model of job market signaling. And the last one is cost-benefit comparison. So, without wasting our time, let's move to the first part, which is introduction. Before I proceed to introduction part, let me introduce myself first. My name is Nur Shairah binti Saidun. My metric number is 278268. So, what is market signaling? Market signaling is a process by which sellers send signals to buyers conveying information about product quality. We have seen that asymmetric information can sometimes lead to a layman's problem because sellers know more about the quality of goods than buyers do. Buyers may assume the quality is low, causing price to fall and only low quality goods to be sold. We also saw how government intervention in the market for health insurance, for example, or the development of reputation in service industry can alleviate this problem. I think that's all from my part. I will pass to the next presenter. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and very good morning. Today I want to present about how market signaling works. Before that, my name is Muhammad Zuljalal bin Musa. My metric number is 281944. Labor market with asymmetric information. Information asymmetry is an imbalance between two negotiating parties in their knowledge of relevant factors and details. We will also examine another important mechanism through which sellers and buyers deal with the problem of asymmetric information market signaling. We will look in labor market, which is a good example of a market with asymmetric information. The new workers, that means the sellers of labor, know much more about the quality of the labor they can provide more than the firms. That means the buyer of labor. New workers know how hard they tend to work, how responsible they are, what their skills are, and so forth. The firm will learn these things only after workers have been hired and have been working for some time. The firm will face difficulties to fire an employee who has been working for more than a few months. The firm will be faced with low employee productivity with 6 to 12 months. The firm will implement on-job training for every employee who is offered a job to ensure that they are trained and able to provide high productivity to the company. The firm is forced to spend additional costs to ensure that newly appointed employees receive adequate training to ensure that the company's agenda for profit is reliable. Okay, now we move to another chapter. What characteristic can a firm examine to obtain information about productivity? What firm need to do before hire new workers? The firm will identify the employee who attended the interview based on certain criteria. As an example, in terms of dressing well. Dressing well is very important because that will make first impression when one person first encounters another person and forms a mental image of that person. However, dressing well is just a weak signal. Employers try to find a strong signal to ensure that the selected employees are of a good quality and able to provide maximum productivity to the company. In this situation, the company will identify candidates who want to work with them must have a high and good level of education. Good level of education is a strong signal in labor markets. Workers who has this good level of education will be evaluated based on how long the study is, the grade obtained, the reputation of the place of study, and many others. Education can directly and indirectly improve a person's productivity by providing information skills and general knowledge that are helpful in work. A useful signal of productivity because more productive people find it easier to attain high levels of education. To be strong, a signal must be easier for high productivity people to give than for low productivity people to give. So the high productivity people are more likely to give it.
Hi and Assalamualaikum, my name is Nurul Huda binti Prancis Muhammad Rizwan and my metric number is 279192. Next, I will continue to explain about a simple model of job market signaling. First, we will consider the following possible equilibrium. Suppose firms use this decision rule: anyone with an education level of Y star or more is a group 2 person and is offered a wage of $20,000, while anyone with an education level below Y star is a group 1 person and is offered a wage of $10,000. The particular label Y star that the firms choose is arbitrary, but for this decision rule to be part of an equilibrium, firms must have identified people correctly. Otherwise, the firms will want to change the rule. Then let's see how it will work. In deciding how much education to obtain, people compare the benefit of education with the cost, as education can be a useful signal of the high productivity of a group of workers if education is easier to obtain for this group than for the low productivity group. So here, let's look at the graph where the low productivity group will choose an education level of Y equal to 0 because the cost of education is greater than the increased earnings resulting from education. From this, let's just say that it's higher because it's much more difficult for them as they have to spend more in order to get their education or being skilled. Given here, the cost of education to them is $40,000 and the level of the education required or the standard that the employer set is Y star. Based on the graph, the low productivity people will choose Y star is 4. Then we can see that gain in earnings is greater than the cost. From here, it takes them more to be able to acquire certain skills because they are low productive people and their productivity is clearly less than highly productive people. So if they work, the revenue will also be lower, which is $100,000. Then how do we know the decision whether the labor should be employed or not, and the cost of them getting the education while Y star is minimum? As you can see, the cost line which is at $40,000 and the optimal choice is 4. If they want to achieve the value of education which is $100,000 with the higher cost at $40,000, then they will not find it worth it to take the education means to incur the cost of education. Thus, from the situation in this graph, it shows the gain is lower than the cost or it's very expensive for them to reach that Y star.
Next, move to the diagram of Group 2, which is the high productivity group. Education can be a useful signal of the high productivity of a group of workers if education is easier to obtain for this group than for the low productivity group. Looking to that diagram, Y star is the year of college or education, where employers would decide who are the low productivity workers and who are the high productivity workers. The straight red line is the cost for this worker. Based on the graph, we can consider that their cost line is much flatter, indicating that it is less costly for them to obtain more years of education as compared to the low productivity workers. High productivity group do obtain Y star of education because for them it is less costly or less expensive. As a result of this, we find that workers provide an essential signal to that market based on their decision to acquire certain years of education. This signal would enable the employers to separate between the low productivity workers and high productivity workers, which is also called separating equilibrium for this situation. So at Y star equal to 4, they have already achieved more than the value of college education and it is worse for them. Hence, the high productivity group will choose an education level of Y star equal to 4 because the gain in earnings is greater than the cost. Then the education decision is based on cost-benefits comparison. From the diagram, we can calculate the cost. Benefits equal to $100,000, cost from Group 2 equal to $20,000 Y star. $100,000 more than $20,000 Y star. To get Y star, 100,000 divided by 20,000 and you will get Y star less than 5. So we can conclude that group 2 will obtain an education level Y star as long as $100,000 is more than 20,000 Y star or Y star is less than 5.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Fatimah Zahra binti Syamsuri, matrix number 280692. So I will present about the cost and benefit comparison. Obtain the education level Y if the benefits, which is the increase in earnings, is at least as large as the cost of this education. So benefit given is $100,000 and cost of education for group 1 is $40,000 and group 2 is $20,000. So we can see the cost of education for group 1 is higher than the cost education for group 2. Maybe because their progress more slowly through degree programs. So, if we assume that level of education Y is 4, so people in the group 1, we find that the education doesn't pay and they did not get any benefits. This is because the cost of their education is higher than the benefits. So, they maybe think it's better for them to not get any education. Meanwhile, for group 2, we find that the education is paid and they get the benefits, which is increase in earnings. So, if we assume that level of education Y is 4, so people in the group 1, we find that the education doesn't pay and they did not get any benefits. This is because the cost of their education is higher than the benefits. So they maybe think it's better for them to not get any education. Meanwhile, for group 2, we find that the education is paid and they get the benefits, which is increase in earnings. Okay, next I will explain about the guarantees and warranties. So the consumer doesn't know whether this product have a higher quality or low quality. So the company will send a signal to their consumer by using the warranties. Usually, the higher quality product or goods have very long warranty period. Meanwhile, the low quality goods have very short warranty period, like 2 weeks or 1 week. So this is the way to market can differentiate between the high quality goods and low quality goods. That's all for me. Thank you.